Good morning, everybody. This is my third video, and I'm in my garden, and my garden is in Darwin in Northern Australia, and we're on Aboriginal land, which is Larrakia land. So I'd like to acknowledge that and the elders of past and present. So today I'm wanting to talk about and take you further in your thinking and perhaps your understanding from the very first interview, which you may remember was crossing the bridge to trauma recovery. So I'm wanting you to imagine that you've crossed the bridge, you're there with the counsellor, you've done the therapy, you've actually started to establish the healing relationship, which was my second video. And now I'm wanting you to position yourself and your thinking in terms of how you move forward on your healing recovery journey. So you might notice here I've got two little people. The person in orange is the survivor. The person in blue is the counsellor, supposedly because of being solid and responsible and all of that, if that's what blue means. But anyway, and here, and so I've created this thing that we've moved along, and you're on a slow climb upwards. You're walking together and working together. Now, before we start to move there, one of the things I want to say to you, remembering that with the therapeutic or the healing relationship or alliance, you need to do this together. So that you can imagine that you're moving forward, but you're sustaining between you. You've got responsibility to not only move forward, so you're not just got your backpacks on and charging off. You actually have to carry and keep the therapeutic relationship going between the two of you. So you have to work together on this process. One can't go charging off or allowing the other to, or just expecting the other to do all the effort. So here we are, you're moving along up a slow climb, and you get to the top of the hill, and you're doing all right. You're thinking you're doing all right. The technique's being used, and you're actually feeling a lot better about yourself. Then you get this incredible bolt out of the blue. And that's what happens with trauma. We have trauma reactions triggered, and they come like a thunderbolt or a lightning out of the blue. So that's why I've tried to create that out of the blue. The immediate reception with that is that it most often sends us into a spin. Now, in this sense, I'm talking about the times, and it can happen throughout our lives, and they will get less intense and less of effect. But in this instance, I'm wanting to be a little bit more dramatic, because in the beginning stages of the healing journey, the bolt out of the blue can knock us flat, and it can actually make us feel as if we're plummeted right down and landed on the bottom, flat on our faces or on our backs on the rocks below, which is a pretty ugly and very difficult place to be. So I've got the trauma survivor here lying on the rocks below here, and I've got the counsellor. You can see it's not very big, I'm sorry, but I've got the counsellor reaching out. Now, in that sense, the counsellor cannot rescue the client or the survivor. The counsellor can assist and should assist, needs to assist, to help the client get back onto his or her feet. You, as a survivor, it's your responsibility to get back on your feet. Don't expect the counsellor to drag you up and hold you up. They can be supportive, but you've got to put your weight on your own feet, because until you can be fired to put your weight on your own feet, you will not be able to effectively engage in the healing journey. So that's what I've got here. And then you might find then that you've got the chances of a little bit of an easier journey, that you've actually still going along a bit of a hill, but there's some steps. So you can climb, you don't have to clamber up, you can have some steps to go here. And up here, you're going along. So it's what I'm wanting to depict is that there's stages. And throughout the stages, things happen. And they won't necessarily all happen together or even in quick succession. But they're all, from my experience, they're all common sorts of events that happen that influence or shape the therapeutic or the healing journey. So we go up here, and I've got what I call a little water bubbler. You know those water bubblers that you find in different places like national parks or places where you can get a good sip of water. And besides that, I've put a tree. And under the tree, I've got this little seat. And that it might be time to sit there and have a rest, because this part might have been pretty tough going. So we don't have to slog it out, and we don't have to, we must, in fact, it's important that from the counsellor's point of view, to recognise the client may need some time to rest, to get themselves the energy to get back out of this hole, may be all that they've got left, that they cannot progress further until they've got themselves up, move a little bit away from this scene, come up some steps and got some distance, but they may actually need to stop and rest at that point. That's why I've got them, and I've got the tree. We need to make sure that when we rest, it's in a cool, calm, shaded place, that it's a safe place to rest. Because if it's not a safe place, we will not be able to effectively rest. And it's common that we can do it together. And that it's important that both the client and the survivor and the counsellor make sure they rest. They may not necessarily rest at exactly the same time, but they do need to recognise it's time to rest. Then I'm moving over here, and I've drawn a platform, and so they've rested, and they're now looking out over having rested and gone through this period. Where do we go to next? And for the most part, the survivor might feel that they've hit a brick wall, and the counsellor might actually get that same feeling too, that they can't get anywhere, they're stumped. They're not quite sure where to go from here, because this has taken so much out of them, and it might have actually derailed some of the original thinking and objectives and that they had as part of the trauma recovery journey. So I've drawn that here, that taking the time to look out on the horizon and take the time to look at new directions, having been blocked to moving forward in their spaces. And then you'll notice it's smudged, but there's a new way forward. It may not be clear at that stage, it may not be clear, but there will always be, my experience as both a counsellor and a survivor, there will be a new way forward. The decision is whether or not, to what extent we've got the courage or the energy to move that way. Remember, we've got to keep that flame alight. And it may be that we've got to keep that flame, that inner energy alive. So we're moving down there. I have it, and we'll get to the point and I should have perhaps drawn two middle fingers here, where the decision as to which way will I go. And there may actually be a number of roads to go, because the way forward is not a single way forward. It's not a necessarily prescribed nor clear way forward. And in this way, this is where we need to trust ourselves and perhaps what we call our gut. We need to have a sense of what sits best for us. And the client and the survivor needs to really recognise that and really understand that it has to sit well with us as survivors as to which way we're going. And that's where the respect, you remember I talked about the need to respect. We need to respect our own capacity to really look at what's the best way forward. And the counsellor needs to recognise and also respect that the client knows which is best. So the counsellor doesn't have to come up with the question, can help to balance out and do strategies to work out which might be the best direction. But in the end, whichever direction the client or the survivor decides to take, that is the best direction for this moment. They may decide to move down there and say, no, sorry, it's not going to take me where I want to go. So it is worthwhile while retracing my steps and coming off somewhere else. So it's that whole thing. So what I'm trying to convey, that this is the journey. We do not get to wholeness. We do not get to a sense of wholeness and a sense of healing simply by leapfrogging all these processes. It's going to take time, it's going to take energy and a joint commitment by the counsellor and the survivor to work together to promote and sustain that relationship and the energy of the little light within, the energy and the fire within the client or the survivor to actually go on the journey, because it does need a lot of fire and it needs lots of energy, and that's what we have to do together. And so it's almost as if if I guess one way would be to describe it is, together you almost have to carry the Olympic flame, that you've got to carry this flame and all the rigors that happens until you get to where you need to be. And that might only be a temporary need to be, until you can stop and get on with your life a little bit more, until you find to embark on another stage of your healing journey. So it doesn't have to be a continuous healing journey. It's elements of it. I hope that gives you some understanding, and remembering that this has all got to be done within the context of working together through the healing relationship to sustain this journey. Thank you.